Hey, you geeks! Wow, The Shadow Rising, Book 4 of the Wheel of Time is a world-building plotline explosion! Instead of wrapping up everything neatly in one epic battle, we get, 2.5?
What a hookwo?
Oh, you know, an in-between quill.
If The Dragon Reborn was the bait, which I bit, The Shadow Rising is the real, beginning to pull me in further. We get to know so many more characters. Those whose names were just a litany before have become dear friends or personal enemies. And there are still some that I want to know more about. Much more. All these characters fill out Jordan's ever-expanding world. The plot now spans the whole Westerland continent, from Tanchico and Tarabon to back to the Two Rivers to Roidion in the Waste. So it's safe to say that I liked it. And now for my spoilerific breakdown of characters, world-building, magic system, and plot. Rand. He's learning how to maneuver people, and he's just so awkward about it. People would think he's going crazy. It's kind of cute at first, him trying to rule Tyr like a good king. All he has to do is be better than literal tyrants. And he is. Not gonna lie, I thought he was going to kill all the nobles in the Heart of the Stone, but he handled it better than certain other fantasy rulers who came about power through force of dragon.
Dracarys.
And Moiraine, because she's Moiraine, thinks he's been seduced by Lanfear. I completely see why Rand does not trust her. I think he handles that lack of trust poorly. They all do. Now that Rand doesn't trust anyone with his plans, not even the reader, we are all at the dragon's mercy.
They're going on a cool adventure and they don't know what's in store.
His mercy is to distance himself from friends and run off into the waste to boss around the Aiel. His cost is learning the tragic story of his people and his parents, which he takes with stoic composure while these eat him up inside. I do not like this new Rand, but I also don't think he likes himself either. Yet somehow he manages to gain a small harem of female admirers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody in the car, so come on, let's ride.
That's Elaine, Min, Avienda, Ascendra, and Lanfear. Let's all thank Osmodian for keeping Lanfear from jumping Rand. That was close. Matt finally got hung. Thank goodness Rand knows CPR.
What's CPR?
Yo!
Matt's also got his hat and Ashendare. It's been so hard to find art of Matt without those things. He's also got his own personal brand of crazy. Unlike the knife, this crazy is the fun kind, which involves getting skills from other men's memories. I hoped he would now be more sympathetic to Rand, especially since Rand saved his life. But no, he grumbles while hanging out with the peddlers, telling Osmodian about Roidion. Matt, how could you?
Moron! Scab eater! Butt sniffer! Pus licker! Fart smeller!
But in the end, he's there to support Rand. And that's what counts. Perrin is still the best, though him and Fael's relationship is concerning.
I guess this is the only engagement that ever started off of a spanking.
I get that Jordan wanted to show relationship growth, but did he really have to start it with physical abuse? Best I can say for Perrin is that he was provoked, but that's still a sign of a terrible relationship. It gets better, them returning to Emond's Field and rallying the common folk. I love a good rally of the common folk.
And by God, we take it back.
Fael helps Perrin deal with the burdens of being Tarviran much better than anyone helps Rand. Perrin cries over the death of his family and the people of Emond's Field, but he's still able to lead his people to victory with the help of his lovely wife. Those two can be great together, but they also can be awful. Really, really awful. Elaine and Nynaeve. If I took a shot every time one of them said something was impossible, I'd be as drunk as Elaine with her 1 cup of wine. Nynaeve has become quite the snob, and it's more than her taste for silk dresses. The way she treats Tom and Julian is only marginally better than Leandrin treats Mogideon as her maid. Befriending Egwene was nice. I'm glad to see the Shan-Chan have some redeeming qualities as a people, and that some among them are open-minded, even more accepting than Nynaeve. But she came around, eventually, and begrudgingly. Once again, Elaine demonstrates that she is the most level-headed and reasonable of our main characters, which isn't saying much. She sent Rand 2 letters, the second one angry at him for something Lan did. In what universe does that make sense? The Aiel are so often compared to the Arabs because of their shufa and, of course, polygamy. I'm not treading too much on that since it lumps Jordan in with Dune and Orants of Arabia.
They'll be coming for Damascus, which I'm going to give them.
An inadequate comparison since Rand is not bearing the white man's burden to save the savages. Instead, he's more mosaic. Born of one nation, raised by their enemies, Rand has returned to completely upend both cultures. This is why everyone loves Rand.
Or you didn't see because you didn't wish to see. Ah, well, that makes everything fine then.
Moreover, the Aiel have some Native American characteristics. They eat corn and tomatoes, are cliff dwellers, and are polygamous. I know the last one is usually lumped in with their Arabness, but Arab polygamy seems more patriarchal in nature, whereas Aiel are more matriarchal. The only culture I know of which balanced matriarchy with polygamy was the Ojibwe, whose, for lack of a better term, women's circle appointed their chief only in times of war. The Aiel, of course, are always at war. Also, I've been told by tribal elders that Ojibwe marriage customs are too complicated to codify. All cultures are complicated, and Jordan's Aiel are one of the most complicated I've seen. And Rand thought leading them would be easy. Sucker. Balanced. We don't learn much about wielding the one power in this book, besides learning some of the differences between Saidin and Saidar. Rather, Rand relies on his same old tricks, which he barely understands. By extension, we barely understand. But that's sort of the point. This time, he gets an Angreal, which levels the playing field between him and the Forsaken. Up until now, the standoffs with Baalzamon have been basically farm boy versus a god. The fact that Rand always won just meant that Baalzamon was a
Puny god.
But Asmodean, though powerful and skilled, is just a man wielding the one power. Nynaeve's fight with Mogideon further enforces this. True, Mogideon has her compulsion trick, but she can be distracted by a smack to the face just like anybody else.
I think you have underestimated me and the element of surprise!
I wonder what this means about Lanfear. She still struts like a goddess among mortals who could smite Rand if she wanted to. Though she doesn't. Even though she bore a hole into the Dark One's prison, she was still only a human back in the day, and maybe still today. The White Tower. The tower has fallen, just like Min predicted. But of course, no one listened to her. Fantasy's profound lack of notice requirements for the deposition of a constitutional monarch baffles me. Swan was just so confident and oblivious. Seeing her fall was hard. What did Elijah tell the sisters to depose her? And how did Loras know to send Min out of the tower? Seriously, there's something about Loras. She may play both sides, but she does so with gusto. Unlike Gawain, who is utterly feckless. He fancies himself Prince Charming and a gentleman.
You have to be a man first before you're a gentleman. He misses on both counts.
I wish we could have seen Loghain's glory, or at least a hint of it. I know, he is his own character, but I have a soft spot for tall, dark, dangerous men with suicidal ideations in fiction. I wanted him to be Gawain's sorry behind. I don't care that the motivations aren't there yet and Gawain is a crazy skilled swordsman.
Mercy is the mark of a great man. Guess I'm just a good man.
That's what I want, and I'm not going to be happy until Loghain gets his glory. Emmett's Field. Perrin returned home! I'm so glad Tam, Abel, and Master Luhan did not just die like a Disney parent. They were awesome, not just as warriors, but also as father figures. I loved the war for the Two Rivers. Perrin slew thousands of Trollocs, dealt with the Black Aja, probably, and
That was totally wicked!
Perrin's path crosses again with Tinkers and White Cloaks. The Tuathawan are, once again, the epitome of helpful and vulnerable. It's not surprising that Aram took up the sword and followed Perrin. Interesting how the ancient Aiel spurned the sword as too far from the way of the leaf, yet Aram just goes for it. At least he was more helpful than the White Cloaks. I'd go so far as to say Lord Luke, despite his best efforts, was more helpful than the White Cloaks, because he gathered the first farm families together for Perrin to win over. Though I can't forgive him for killing wolves as Slayer. No idea what that's about. Paran Fain's gambit was unsuccessful. Perrin's skill in the wolf dream is going to rival Egwene's and Nynaeve's skills. Pity they didn't run into each other. Instead, we get two epic fights, one in the dream world and one in the waking world. Both were perfection, and then we cut to Rand. Elcair Dal. The Rand Lanfear Osmodian Battle of Wits was so confusing the first time. I knew Lanfear was in the caravan, but I didn't realize she had brought another Forsaken along for the ride. In hindsight, she said as much in the Stone of Tyr. Then Moiraine quoted that lovely prophecy which laid out Rand's goals for the book, even though she misinterpreted it. Is each book getting its own little prophecy to set the stakes? Those are fun.
You shall see a cow on the roof of a cotton house.
The Battle of Words was sort of a letdown, yet the march to Elcair Dal was the second most epic singing I've read in fiction. All Rand did was say a few words to break the Aiel. Up till now, Rand solved his problems by stabbing people, usually a Forsaken, though he did make it rain in the Waste.
Once upon a time, there was a magical place where it never rained. The end.
Miraculous it may be, he still got lucky the Slot Canyon didn't flood when the Forsaken appeared. Then we're treated to the magical fight, which I've already talked about. In a shocking twist, Rand captures Osmodian and takes him for a teacher, a better and more cunning alternative to murder. Rand is certainly growing. What he's growing into, I cannot say. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see more. Your patronage is greatly appreciated.